All right, there we go. I'll be here all week.
How you doing,
Hi,
Tim?
Luke. I'm doing pretty good. I got to get my thing sorted out so I can navigate between all these little items, but I think I'm good. There we go. Perfect. How's everybody doing? Everybody's all right? All my regular people here?
I think you met some of our workshop members out in the wild, didn't you, last week?
Oh, yeah, I did. We had, I don't see any of them here, right? Oh, yeah, I see Justin here. I played Justin's beautiful L5 and hung out with him, and I don't see any, and I'm not sure I'm seeing everybody, but Dave was there, and Steve Hill was there, and Bill, I can't remember Bill's last name, was there. So it was fun. Next time we'll
Nice.
get Dan
Okay.
out there. So we're gonna talk about
So
blues phrasing today.
the same house rules apply as always. My internet's being a bit sketchy today, so I'll be monitoring the chat extra closely, um, so I don't interrupt too much. But as always, guys, whack your questions in whenever they come to you. Feel free to get involved and talk amongst yourselves as well. You don't have to wait for the right moment to do anything. Keep the conversation going. And yeah, Tim, I'll let you take it away.
Oh, good. Okay, thank you, Lou. Good to see you. Yeah, the site seems to be running a little slow today too, so be patient with that when you, if and when you get over there to look for the live stream. We're working on getting it straightened out, but you know the weather gets warm and all of a sudden all those little cable connections start to melt and things. So anyway, here we are. I'm in Seattle, and it's about 70 degrees here. Neener, neener, neener. Everybody else is sweating or bailing their basement out or some crazy thing, and we're just sitting here in the. I'm thinking, man, I could put a sweater on. Anyway, it's good to see everybody. So the blues is an interesting thing. I want to sort of start from the beginning because I think this is a very powerful sort of thing to explore for everybody, regardless of whether it be Robert Johnson or Muddy Waters or B.B. King or Charlie Parker. Okay, so all about the blues. The thing that makes a blues, in addition to all the stylistic considerations, is the form. There's 12 bar blues and there's 16 bar or 8 bar blues, and then there's 24 bar blues, but they all have some kind of form that is dictated by the song form. So in a standard 12 bar blues, like I was playing at the beginning, um, there's a 4 bar system, 3 4 bar systems inside of that. So you have, for instance, the first 4 bars is usually the 1 chord, maybe the 4 chord in bar 2, then back to the 1 chord, and then another bar of 1. That's the first 4. Then the next 4 is the 4 chord, then for 2 bars, then 2 more bars of the 1 chord. But then the 5 chord is then the beginning of the next 4 bar system, and then the 4 chord a bar later, and then the 1, and then a quick little 5 at the end. Okay? And then if you listen to classic blues, you'll notice that the song form also follows that 3-4 bar section idea. So you might have something that goes like this. Say, if I was going to sing a song, every day I have the blues, okay? Every day I have the blues. That was the first 4 bars. Then I go to the next 4 bars, which starts at bar 5 on the 4 chord. Every day I have the blues. Okay, that was the next 4 bars. And you notice that the melody was almost exactly the same, and the lyrics were exactly the same as well. And then, speaking of bad luck and troubles, you know it's you I hate to lose. Right? And then in the last 4 bar section, the third 4 bar section, there's usually a kind of a wrap up. The melody changes, the chords change from either the 2-5-1 or a 5-4-1, depending on how fancy the tune is. And it's kind of, we call it the turnaround. A lot of times people call that whole 4 bar section the turnaround, but specifically the last 2 bars of it. And gives us a chance to do something a little different, which wraps things up. Okay? So I say something, and I let it sit there. Then I say that same thing again with a different harmonic backdrop, and then I let it sit there. Notice there's space right here. Then I say something different and let everybody know that it's coming to an end. And then they turn around. Okay, so it's always a little bit like that, even if it's more complicated, because if it's Charlie Parker, it goes. It's the same kind of idea, only the idea is fancier. But there's always going to be something like this notion that there's something that happens in the first 4 bars with a little space at the end usually. The same thing melodically will happen in bars 5 through 9 and 5, 6, 7, 5 through 8. And the melody will be mostly the same with the space at the end, but the harmony will be a little different because we go to the 4 chord there. And then there's some kind of wrap up. Okay? So we can count on that being something that's common to the blues, whether it be, Son House or Robert Johnson or John Coltrane, and there's variations, of course, but that's something that we can often sort of frame our notions about. Then what that means is when we start to solo over the tune, whatever it might be, we want to bear those things in mind so that we can create a solo that actually is influenced and reflects the form. And a lot of times that's one thing that doesn't happen. When I listen to guitar players play the blues, a lot of times even the pretty good ones are sort of just running their licks. And from students, I often hear a concern that I need to have more ideas. I feel like I'm playing the same thing over and over. I get stuck in a rut. I need more ideas. And I think those two things are kind of connected. Because if you just play every idea that you have, one after the other, by the end of 12 bars, you've played, 12 ideas, maybe, or something. And then you run out of ideas because you only have 13 ideas, right? I'm being silly, but you know what I mean. We think we have a limited vocabulary, and then we're worried that we need to keep creating new and new and new and new. So which isn't a bad idea, but the notion is that we need to have more stock stuff ready to go so we can still do the same old thing of playing one idea after another, only we have more ideas so we can go for longer before we start over at the beginning. Okay. I talked about this a little bit in the sort of sourdough starter lesson in the jazz improv section. I don't know if anybody saw that yet, but it's a good one. So the idea is not to throw away your original idea too soon. The game that we're going to play is that you're going to, whatever your first idea is, whatever comes out of you, I'm not saying you have to have brilliant ideas. I'm just saying that whatever the idea is, stick with it for 12 bars for the whole thing. And what by stick with it, I mean, remember you played it and then respond to it as a theme. So the idea is thematic blues soloing means we have to pay attention to the theme. We have to trust and respect the theme, and then, or the motif, if you will, and then improvise with that in mind, right? So let me take something very, very simple, and I'm going to change to the key of G now because it's a little easier for me to do demonstrations and things with my looper rather than the organ trio, as cool as it is. So let's say I'm going to play a blues in G. This is a standard blues in G, 12 bars with nothing fancy. And I'm going to get the tempo just by listening to it for a second. Okay, good. Now I'm going to say... Now that was, to my mind, that was one idea. Same exact thing from the 1 to the 4. A little variation. Another little variation, but still the same idea, right? Then another variation, and then the wrap up, right? Now, that is literally playing the same idea over and over and over, with little variations to enhance the form, right? Turns out that those notes that I was playing are common to all 3 of the chords in the progression, so I can get away with not changing really much of anything from one chord to the next. That isn't always the case, but in this case, I chose to do that to demonstrate this idea, right? So the 5, 6, 1 over the 1 chord becomes 9, 3, 5, 3, 5 over the 4 chord, and then for the 5 chord, I just put that in there, the 5 of the 5. So I took a fairly neutral idea, chord tone wise, and made it into a theme. Then I made an arc through all 12 bars. And what happens when you do that is, first of all, you don't run out of ideas as quickly because you're using one idea to really sustain you through the whole chorus. Now, as an exercise, that's really good to do. As a performance tactic, you might not want to be too strict about that. Don't want to hem yourself in too much, but it's a good idea even in performance to do that. And the other thing that happens, and I saw it on some people's faces, the audience then starts to have an expectation of what you might play next because you've used repetition, and they feel more involved in it. They feel like they're part of the deal, right? Instead of being downwind from a barrage of stuff that they have to kind of let come at them, even if it's very impressive, if it's a, somebody famous going, after you do that for about 2 minutes, everybody's kind of like, ooh, and then everybody says, well, play like BB King. Well, what did BB King do? BB King did this, but how did he do it, and what did he do, and how come it was so good? So if we have one idea, let's try this. Everybody get your guitar in your lap. Don't worry about anybody hearing you because we're all muted except me. So just try and play along with me, okay? And then we're going to play this little lick. That's at the 3rd fret, the 5th, the 6th, and the root of a G. And then back to the 6th and back to the 1. Some variation on that, okay? I'm waiting for Eric to get his guitar. Here we go. All right. All right. I'm going to count you in, and you'll hear the looper and me. Just play along. See if you can hang. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Again. Oh, we'll do it here. Okay, very good, very good. I love it to see people getting their hands on their instruments. So that was dead simple, right? But it shows you something. We put that little phrase in the same spot every 2 bars. Boop dooby dooby doo. 1, doop dooby dooby doo. 2, 3, 4, 1. Doop dooby dooby doo. Okay. Now, what if I just changed a little bit about it throughout the course of the deal? So now the theme is a little bit surrounded by interesting little anecdotes of one kind or another, little comments and things. And the listener is then more engaged because they have the benefit of expectation, but there's always a little bit of a surprise in there too. Okay? And I still don't have to really worry about what notes to play, except for when I went up here, I had to find, okay, stop on that one. That's a good one, But the same kind of content is still good for the whole deal. I can relax and play with space and the time feel and the groove and all of that stuff without being so hung up on, oh my God, what's my next idea going to be, right? And when you've got something where you kind of basically for the whole chorus, you're kind of clear about what your marching orders are, you can start actually playing in a playful way, like this. Lay way back. Another octave. We can always get a little bit expressive and introduce new things on the turnaround, because that's another place where people expect something new to happen, so we can give them something new without feeling like we're throwing the baby out with the bathwater and jumping completely out of the thing that we've set up. So sometimes, all the time, but a lot of the times, repetition can be a really cool way to do this thing that we're always interested in doing, which is to create tension and then resolve it. So sometimes an incredible amount of tension can be created with very, very few notes, all of which are consonant. Okay, let me show you what I mean by that. Tampa Red used to do that. He played bottleneck guitar and he'd say woo woo woo, woo. He would just build up this incredible tension with this note, and then he would resolve it in like bar 9, and you were like, oh, thank you, Mr. Tampa, and so that's another thing that we can do, is we can realize that we can use the thematic idea to do this thing which most people think you got to play outside notes to get tension. You have to play dissonant notes to get tension. But you can also create tension by rhythmic repetition. I notice this almost every time I play. If I'm feeling like maybe the crowd isn't really with me, because a lot of times, you play a solo and people go, oh, and it's really, they like it a lot. And sometimes, like about halfway through the show, man, they stop doing that so much. And then then you realize, okay, they're not just willing to be polite anymore, like clapping because I didn't die during my solo, but no, they want me to actually, excite them some way. And I can always tell that I can get them back if I just play the same lick over and over and over for a while and then resolve it. They're going to go, oh, something just happened. Right? It's a guarantee. Now, there are some people who use that maybe to an extent that is a little bit annoying, and they use it in a gratuitous way, but it is not a bad technique to use repetition to create tension and then have the relief of that, and everybody likes it, Be careful, though, because it can become a crutch as well. You still have to have something to say. Okay? So the other thing that we need to explore, and I'll just stick with this demonstration idea a little bit longer, is that the repetition or the referencing of the original idea does not have to be a verbatim repeating of it. You can say, oh, I'm going to use these 4 notes. They're going to be my palette. I'm not throwing away the idea, but I'm going to use different rhythms. I'm going to use different phraseology. So maybe I'll use the same little zone of notes, but let's see what else I can do with it. Right? I didn't really play the same idea over and over. I just used the same little area and tried to play one idea and then maybe reference that idea with a variation. Another kind of variation or way of extending the theme is to sort of look at it backwards, for instance. Right? So let's throw out that idea, start with a new idea. I'm going to say, and that was a longer idea. Well, instead of just playing it again, I might play those notes and that rhythmic idea backwards-ish. All right, so let me see if I can do that. Now I'm coming up to bar 5, so the 4 chord. So I had basically the same rhythm, and I changed one note so that it would fit the 4 chord. I'll talk about that more in a second. But then instead of going up, I went down and resolved to the same note an octave lower when the G chord came back around again. And you can do this in some ways spontaneously if you know the terrain well enough. If you know how to play a G7 arpeggio with the flatted third added in, say, for instance. And I've talked about this in some of these other blues classes where I'm talking about note selection and note choice. So if you need some work on that, take a look at those classes on the site. And it doesn't have to be verbatim. Like I said in the intro to the package, you're the only judge of it. Really, you're the one that decides whether you succeeded or not, and how much of it you're going to do, and how what and how you're going to manage it. Okay. And after you do some of these simpler exercises, you can let yourself be free, and you'll have hopefully have a finer sense of this subject matter, so that you're more likely to stick with your idea. Okay? Sticking with your idea is really the theme here. The theme of the thematic blues is to not throw your stuff away too soon. Push yourself to create based on the thing that you originally started with. It's like telling a story. I have fun with this one. So let's say you're sitting at a park on a bench just enjoying the day, and a friendly person sits down next to you, and they begin chatting, and they've got something on their mind. They want to tell you a little something about what just happened to them. Maybe you know this person. Yeah. And they say, walking in the park, the water, the sun, a squirrel in the tree. The squirrel in the tree. I had lunch over at the Mexican restaurant earlier. What are you going to do with this guy, this person? You're gonna have to say, well, what are you talking about? They just kind of did a list of stuff. They didn't tie anything together. They didn't say, I was walking around the lake and the sky was so beautifully blue and the sun was sparkling on the water. And then I sat down for a minute and I heard something rustling up over my right shoulder, and there was a squirrel up in that tree, and he was shouting because the crow was trying to get to him. And then earlier I thought, maybe I'm a little hungry. Now I'm going to walk across the street and I'm going to go to that Mexican restaurant that's really good. And then I'm going to come back and bring my food back over here. And maybe I'll share it a little bit with that squirrel. Well, then you're with them. You kind of know what's going on, even if it's a little bit odd or funny or whatever. But just listing all of the events is not going to get you much, right? So playing music is just like that. You have to reference what you just said so that the next thing makes sense. You can carry an idea through a through line so that it makes sense in relationship to the larger context, which is the chord progression and the vibe of the groove and all of that stuff, right? So we hear this as a kind of cliche that you want to tell a story, but it really is exactly that, because not that the story is like a tale you would tell at story time, but there are some of the same constructs, which is you want to say something that has a flow. You want to say something that means something to somebody who's listening and creates maybe suspense and then relief and all of these other good storytelling techniques. We need to try and do that as players as well. Not just avoid wrong notes, right? We don't need to worry. This whole thing of, I feel like I did good if I didn't play any big clams during my solo, right? Well, that is a kind of good, but it's not quite enough. So we want to start working toward being able to tell something about ourselves and about the music, and maybe reflect the lyric or the feeling of the tune or whatever it is, without a bunch of predetermined. So we're not going to make a speech We have to tell a story. And when you're telling a story as opposed to making a speech, you're actually engaging the people you're speaking to, person or people that you're speaking to, and you're getting their feeling and you're reacting to their reactions and looking at their body language and their eye contact and all that stuff. Whereas if you're giving a speech, you're just reciting something you memorized, and the audience is sort of way over there, you know. Music playing is much more like storytelling than speech giving. And because it's so interactive, we need to be able to interact in real time with our fellow musicians and the audience and random random things in the environment that might happen. We need to be able to react and respond to all of those things. So it needs to be, ultimately, we have to set ourselves up for spontaneity rather than perfection. All you got to do is listen to a couple of blues records, beyond the fancy ones that we all know about, but like listen to Robert Nighthawk, or listen to like a live performance of somebody. You're going to hear all kinds of stuff going on. You know, Buddy Guy. You listen to a live performance of Buddy Guy, and he's jacked up and crazy, but he plays, you know, sort of, sometimes he hits a couple of clams, but he keeps on going and he keeps on expressing, because those clams are also what's true about him in that moment. So let's pause here for a second. Any questions right about now? Oh, there's
So we
two
got
things
a
in the chat. Oh, look. Let's see. Oh,
got well, Ian said at the start, do you think this idea makes it more accessible for the audience too? So that was back when we were talking about how you were phrasing with the form. That's when you started talking about that. So
yeah, I think I addressed that. Yeah, I definitely think it makes it more
yeah.
accessible. Um, I'll tell you what. If you want to gauge like what a successful guitar player is in sort of the general idea, I'll go. I'm not endorsing either of these people or denouncing either of these people. But if you go to a John Mayer concert, there's going to be at least close to 50-50 male and female participants, right? Because John Mayer sings nice songs. He plays melodic things, and the guitar players in the front row can stare at his fingers, but everybody else can just dig the music. You know, and they can bring somebody to the show, and with their wife or their husband or whoever it is, and they can all enjoy the show together because there's a level of musicality, even though there's really good guitar playing going on. But it happens to be guitar playing of a much more melodic trend. But if you go to a Joe Bonamassa show, it's mostly dudes staring at his amps, right? And that's nothing wrong with that. He does great, you know. He does great, and he has a great career going, and he's a great guitar player. But he really leans on this sort of machine gun approach that not many people who aren't guitar players totally dig, right? And to be honest with you, he's changing a little bit more and more toward more song-based material that more than guitar players can love, right? So anyway, the idea is that B.B. King is not the greatest blues guitar player in the world because he's the greatest blues guitar player in the world. He's the greatest blues guitar player in the world because more people have heard him play because his music is fun to listen to, and you don't have to be a guitar player to dig it. And so, you know, you can find where you want to be on that continuum. And I'm not saying one's better than the other, but it all depends on what you're trying to do, what you like, what you think is good. I happen to think that this kind of stuff that I'm talking about is good for your audience and for your musicality. Pat Metheny said, "Happy Birthday" is sort of a perfect song, and it sticks to the theme and builds on it. Yeah, there are a lot of good songs, though. And one of the ways we learn how to play melodically, I've said this before, it's no mystery. The best way to learn how to play good melodies is to learn good melodies. Learn the good melodies and then use them as models, and particularly of the song that you're playing in the moment. Okay. Grant Green does the consonant thing a lot. Yeah, Grant does a lot of that sort of repetition. He plays and builds tension that way. And he needs to, because later in his career, especially, he was playing on a lot of one chord vamps, funky as hell one chord vamps. And you can only play so many notes before, it's just notes going by. But if you pick a theme or a rhythm, or you have some sort of motif and you repeat it a lot, then you get people's attention, and then you can have that tension and release thing. All right, it looks like that's all the questions. Cool. Now, let's kind of go a little deeper into the how we can use or change the notes in our opening phrase to fit the chords. So if I have an opening phrase, like that, that's a good one. It's basically a blues lick type of cliche, but it features the third of the chord. Now, if you thought about it for a second, you'd realize that when it gets to the four chord, the note that I played as the third of G is not in the four chord. It's actually a half step above the note that's in the four chord, and would sound odd and not so pleasant necessarily over that four chord. So we need to change the lick over the four chord to include the B flat instead of the B natural. Everything else can stay the same. So let's see. Four chord. Now I'm really going to change it. That's the four chord. I'll try and play it again without making a mistake. Now the five chord, got to do something there. Okay, I'll just do the whole thing without talking. Listen closely to what happens on the G string. Four chord. Okay, so I just had to make sure that this lick turned into this lick, or any of those kind of variations that use the B flat instead of the B, right? So that's one small issue that we need to be aware of, is how to subtly change our idea to fit the chord of the moment. Now, somebody might say, well, I heard that you could play minor pentatonic on the one chord and then keep playing minor pentatonic on the four chord, and then you can switch to major pentatonic for the one chord, and then No, I don't think that way. Everybody's confused about it. Nobody knows when to do it, and it doesn't really sound good anyway. Well, but B.B. King says that's what he does. Well, he did. There is evidence that B.B. King would say something like, well, sometimes I play the major pentatonic, but then he starts bending notes inside of the little pattern, and the notes that he's bending to are no longer in the major pentatonic. They're the sounds that he hears in his head, which have, by the way, are the flat 7 next to the 6 and the flat third next to the 3, the natural third. So when you hear someone saying major pentatonic and minor pentatonic, mostly what they're talking about is the shape on the guitar that you start visualizing. And then they're mostly not talking about what happens when you bend or slide into notes inside of those patterns. So take all that business about major and minor pentatonic with a grain of salt. It's not a bad way to sort of get your ears going on a sound, but then someone will say, oh no, if you want the Robin Ford sound, you got to do minor pentatonic with a 6. Oh, now I've got another thing to worry about. And then the major pentatonic with the flat 7 instead of the 6. And then it becomes like this soup of sense that we don't want to be thinking about when we're playing the blues, right? Just, realize that it's this basic framework of the chord of the moment, and then this palette of notes that you can grab in relationship to that chord. And then the chords relate to each other, and sometimes a little bit changes and sometimes a lot changes. And you don't want to be thinking about this scale and that scale, and even something as simple as the major pentatonic and the minor pentatonic, because it's too much thinking for the benefit that you get out of it. Now, you might want to do this, though. You might want to look at, when I play a G7 chord, like I do as the one chord in the blues, what are the notes of G minor pentatonic in relationship to that? What are those notes and how do they relate to the chord? And what is in the scale that's not in the chord, and what's in the chord that's not in the scale? Right? Look into that and discover for yourself that there's some things that aren't, and then when you learn a new lick or when you hear a cool lick, make sure you analyze what are the notes in relationship to the chord of the moment, right? That'll help a lot. Instead of just learning the lick and saying, oh, I use that because I learned it from Otis Rush, I'm going to use it in that song that he plays it in. But you can turn something into a nice vocabulary idea that you can use in all different kind of ways if you know what its content is. Okay? So, what did Dan just say? He said, write them out. See what's different. Don't know where I got that. He's teasing me because that's the kind of shit I always say to him. All right. So now let me just play a little bit over this, and I'm going to be fairly loose with this idea, but still trying to accomplish the same thing, because I don't want you to feel like there's a lot of have-tos in this thing. It's music, it's creative, and you can break the rules anytime you want if that's what you want to do. Okay. Okay, maybe we can get Jeff to transcribe that one. Here, what is it? It's at about 45 minutes in. I'll tell him that, because I think that was a pretty good example of just me being myself, playing what I hear in my head, but still following this sort of general trend of wanting the solo that I'm creating to sound like it fits the form of the blues, right? With this 3-4 bar statements. Another thing that you might observe is that when you take a solo, for instance, you have a choice. You can take a solo as a player who is wiggling one's fingers in impressive ways, or you can take a solo as a composer who's creating something that would be substantial and would stand up to repeated listening like a good instrumental would be, okay? So, for instance, there are very few instrumentals in the blues that are just a guy wanking away on a pentatonic lick. Hoodly, 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 hoodly. There's not many of those. There's a few, but there's not many. Most of the instrumentals that we like and know and love have more of a creative, sort of melodic, song-like structure. So I'm going to write a song on this G blues. Okay, ready? Oh, I forgot the tempo. I got to do it way slower. So, I mean, if I wanted to, I could probably, maybe I'd have to do a little polishing here or there, but I could put that out as an instrumental tune. It doesn't just sound like I'm just wanking, you know. There's room for that. Maybe if I took a solo, I'd do some of the, you know, hot lick kind of stuff, just to balance things out. But it's a choice that we can make, really. Do we want our solos to sound like someone's hoping they don't fail? Or do we want our solos to sound like someone is actively creating something, a musical quality that is listenable and makes sense and, you know, and contributes something to the musical performance? That's a choice we can all make. The final thing I could say about this, and then maybe we'll just leave it open for more questions and stuff, is that the song you're playing at the moment can really help you to come up with ideas about what to do on your solo. Okay? So let's say I'm going to change to a new groove because I think we wore that one out. So new key and a new groove. 1, 2, 3, 4. Funky thing in A. Okay, so then let's say the song is I'll just make up a melody. I'll just scat a melody. And that's my time to take a solo, and I might say, okay. the first chorus was almost like a reflection of the melody. I almost played something like the melody, right? And that's never a bad thing to do, especially on the first chorus. Then the next chorus, I played two total. I played more notes in a different range, and I also used that tension building repetition method. And but I was generally still following this 4-bar section idea. Regardless of what notes I was playing, I was still following the framework of the blues. Usually, if it's going to be if let's say you get a chance to take a solo and it's only 2 choruses long, you might want to, kind of wade into it, kind of, with some patience on the first chorus, and then build to some kind of big, beautiful finish in the second chorus. Some people will jump in with their hottest lick, and that's also, a strategy that can work. Is you want to get everybody's attention. Oh, it's my turn to get your attention. Play some blazing thing right off the bat, but not too long, because you got to have it be some kind of statement, right? There's solos like that are great, and then you kind of tread water and groove and do all kinds of things, and then do a clever build and end or something like that. Then there's some people that just they're comfortable, and the song needs it to just kind of lay in the pocket and groove. That's cool too. You just sustain the mood. You don't have to take everybody on a big journey or blow their minds. You can just, come on, let's just dance. We're just grooving, That's for this kind of music, man. At that kind of tempo and that groove, you certainly don't want to do anything to disturb the groove and the good feeling everybody's getting. So just lay in the pocket and play. Just take your time and follow the feeling of the song. So that's, I hope that's not too many options or too many suggestions. The package that is on the website now has this organ trio in the key of F, and that's a challenging key to play in because it's sort of the comfort zone is quite lower than usual. But it's good to spend some time in the key of F. Might be the hardest key to play blues in because it's just one fret away from all the stuff you usually play in E or F or in G. But it'll be good for you. And I talk a little bit about it. I talk more about it today, and this thing will be posted as well. Then it's all transcribed. I did about maybe 6 or 7 choruses, and maybe more. And each one of them, I think, had a sort of a whole theme. That I did this thing that I'm trying to convince you all to try. So the game, though, is take a blues at a nice tempo, easy tempo. Don't worry about it. Don't want to be putting any extra difficulties in. And then play whatever you play. Usually a short idea is better than a long thing. But play a lick. And then stick with that lick for the whole 12 bars. Whatever it is. It's not a time to be a genius. It's not a time to come up with the most incredible thing. It's just a time to learn what it feels like to stick with your initial concept of what you're going to do on a chorus of blues. And then on the next chorus, start with something else. And the next one and the next one. And you'll be surprised that if you play that game, you won't have the idea that you think is, I have to have more ideas. I mean, you can play for 20 minutes and basically, have 20 starting points or however many, 10 starting points, and get a lot of mileage out of what you already know. But it means you have to get used to the idea of improvising in a different way than just stringing your licks together. And the blues gives us a really good opportunity to explore that. Oh, Great to be reminded to stay calm and breathe. Yes. Breathing is not a bad idea, generally speaking.
It's got me this far.
Yeah, someone wrote me a note. I've gotten this note many times. Tim, I have a question for you. It seems like you're breathing when you're playing. What do you do? What's up with that? I say, yeah, I usually breathe when I play because of how breathing works. It's a joke, but I actually breathe kind of more intentionally than just breathing in and out. I actually phrase my breath and my music playing connect. But that's a subject for another day, I think.
I think that's
What do you
definitely what I'd
think,
like to
Luke?
explore. Um, right. Any questions on any of that? I really enjoyed that. That was great. I'm itching to go and play some blues now. Um, we've got that lesson that's just dropped. We've got some new things coming for you guys on Monday
Oh,
with
there's a new YouTube Plus too, which I think is really good for the solo guitar people. I did a version of Willow Weep for Me, which is a bluesy ballad, and I think it came out really well. And Jeff wrote it up, and it's been put in the YouTube Plus page. It's a great tune, especially if you really like that intersection of jazz and blues. So maybe more advanced harmony and a more advanced technique, but still a bluesy feeling. So check out Willow Weep for Me in YouTube Plus.
awesome. Again, keep recommendations for YouTube Plus coming. If you've got a favorite video
I've got
from.
some.
Oh, okay, perfect. Um, the other thing on Monday, we've got the line cliches thing dropping, which is going
Line
to be
cliche.
great.
Does
The
everybody know what a line cliche is? Yeah, a couple of hand raises. A line
Yes.
cliche, just because I understand that there's a lot of stuff on the site. Dan was telling me the other day. He said I was looking at that thing. He says I don't have enough of a life left to look at everything in this thing. How do I choose? So the pathways can be helpful, but a line cliche is the most famous line cliche for our generation is this one, right? It's or this one. There's two of them in this one. Something in the way she moved struck me like no other lover. Right? And then don't wanna leave her now. I don't wanna leave her now. Oh, sorry. Okay. A line cliche is when there's a harmony, major or minor chord, for maybe two bars, and the function of that uh, chord is basically what you think it would be, and then inside, in order to create some movement rather than having just static chords, a line cliche is a moving line, usually chromatic, inside or at the bottom or the top of a chord that's static. So this one's A minor major 7, A minor 7, and then A minor 6. And that one's all over the place. Old and new, right? Irving Berlin wrote Blue Skies in 1929 or something like that. And it's blue skies shining on me. There's nothing but blue skies, and there's probably a song that was written last week that uses something like that as well. That ended up on Spotify or whatever. And then there's basically four line cliches. Some are more common than others, but I go into all of that and give you many examples of how to do it. And it's not a huge chunk, but it's about a 30-minute endeavor to watch the whole thing, and then another probably 30 years to work on it and get it in your fingers and in your ear and under your fingers. But line cliches are the bomb. They really are. And a lot of times people say, "What's all that movement on the inside of the chords? I hear the melody and I hear the bass, but what's all that extra stuff you're doing?" A lot of it is line cliches or something like a moving line inside. And then there's another video coming, which will be kind of packaged together with it, all about inner line movement on one of our arrangements. So I took a solo guitar arrangement, "I'm in the Mood for Love," and I added a bunch of inside line movement to it.
Fantastic. You know what my next question is going to be? What's the tune of the month next month?
Tune of the month next month is going to be the what we promised last time, which is Buddha. In Walked Bud by Thelonious Monk.
That's right. Yes,
Yep,
month.
yep. And we're going to look at, I'll have solo guitar of it, which is a little tricky. You wouldn't think of it necessarily. And then the melody, how to play the melody, whatnot. And then also some improv stuff. And it'll be great.
I'm
I'm
looking forward to
predicting.
that. I'm guessing we've got a few Monk fans here as well. Right.
I sure am. I love Thelonious Monk. In G on Lonely Avenue. Wait, what is this? In G on Lonely Avenue, I changed the song form to 5 flat 6 5. Oh, good. You can always do that, especially on a minor blues. On a minor blues, the big question is, let's say you're at a jam session and you call a minor blues, right? Let's say, as the years go passing by, and somebody doesn't know it, and the bass player says, "Do you play?" They always say sharp 5 because they don't know, but they say, which turnaround is it? Is it just 5, 5/4, or is it flat 6 to 5? Which is it? They all got to find out, especially on a minor blues, because that's usually where it often happens. I think Lonely Avenue is a minor blues, right? I think that's what it is. And maybe that's not the right tune. Anyway, thanks, Eric. That's a good point. Oh, you played it. You played G7. Okay, that'll work. You can play this one too. I'll look into it. That's a good one. We can try look into that for a future blues lesson because it's got some nice jazzy qualities as well.
I
Who
think
wrote
there's
that song? Eric, type in who wrote it.
I think we've got some blues turnaround deep dives coming up, or
Oh,
maybe
that's we do.
maybe I think
I
it's on
thought
the
it's.
list.
I think it's already up.
Then I could
Oh,
be
Ray Charles. Okay, yeah. He may not
okay.
have wrote it, but he written it. But he decided that he did it. Yeah. Okay. Oh, we got two different conversations going
That's
here.
fine.
Sorry, Luke.
Right, guys. Thank you all so much for
You
tuning
guys
in.
are great.
Thank you.
I love this.
Yeah, I hope
Tell
you
your
guys are enjoying the
friends.
new format. One jazz one, one blues one. I think it's a really nice mix.
It definitely keeps Jeff busy.
Yep.
Have you got
Jeff, I
any
love.
exciting news, Luke, about Guitar Vivo or anything coming up? We want to share the love a little bit with these good people.
There might be a summit happening this year. Um,
Ooh.
we'll be raising money for pancreatic cancer research in honor of Don.
Okay.
And yeah,
Oh
well,
no, I'm sorry to correct you, but Don had prostate
oh,
cancer.
sorry, that's what I meant to say.
Okay.
Prostate cancer.
Yeah.
It's
Okay. He might have
um,
had pancreatic cancer toward the end as well because it kind of went everywhere. But
um, yeah, I was thinking of I have a different project raising money for pancreatic cancer as well,
oh, okay. So
which
you're
is
actually
that's
raised money for everybody.
we're trying to. So we've got that. Yeah, we got some cool stuff. We've got your next thing coming out.
Melodic blues guitar soloing. It's about halfway done and it's sounding so good. I'm having a lot of fun with it, and it'll be just the next one in this sort of melodic jazz guitar thing. And we might fold in some sort of 251, 36251 material in it as well, so you can have good vocabulary. But also, we're just looking at how can we solo over tunes that we know that we might play at a jam session or whatever, and play on the melodic side of the game rather than the mathematical side of the game. So that's intent my intent with that book.
Yeah, that's a very good intention to have because I think it's much needed. At least from my experience of going to the jams around here and my own playing. Um, that's kind of it. I'm very lucky to have Jeff coming over this week to work remotely, so I'll be making sure he's ahead on the tune of the month for next month. I'll be cracking the whip.
Oh, hey, you know what I want to do, Luke? See if we can do this. I want to get the three of us on a call, the two of you together and me, and I want to interview Jeff about all that he does for the site.
I think it'd be amazing. I think because
You
so
can
Jeff
prompt
obviously
him and
works out with
stuff.
chords.
Yeah,
So
I want these good people to meet him and also know how hard he works to put all those little black dots on there. That makes it so much easier for you to learn this stupid stuff.
so I think a good date for that would be September 6th because we've got a live stream scheduled that day.
Is he going to be there on September 6th?
He's not going to be here, but we may as
Oh,
well celebrate.
okay,
So
okay.
September 6th, we have a live stream. It is Tim's birthday as
I'm
well.
going to be 29 years old.
Finally.
I know. Jeez.
So we'll have
I was born in a leap year.
we'll have a little party on stream. We'll get Jeff in to toast, and then we can also chat about that.
Okay.
Perfect. Right, guys, thank you all so much. We will see you on the next one, which is August 2nd, and that will be in Walks Bud.
Oh, and a shout out the track that is in the package for the note this recent blues thing, and we've used it before for softly, is a fellow we're working with to be able to use his backing tracks for the site and also for this new book coming up. Um, and it's his name is Phil. I always want to say, is it Wilkinson?
Yes.
Phil Wilkinson, wonderful guy, great organ player, and he puts together really good tracks. It's about as close as I've ever felt of playing with real musicians in real time. He does a really good job, and so you can go to his website, which is called Jazz
PlayJazzTracks.com.
playjazztracks.com, and you can buy packages of his jam tracks. You can buy one at a time, or you can buy 12 or 15 songs, or you can buy a whole series, and the price is very, very reasonable. And he's a guy who's just doing his best, and so we want to support him. And we got to put an ad up for him on the site somewhere. Put something up so people can find him, and also just let him know that we appreciate him, because I want to make sure he knows that, and that we're using his material for educational purposes here.
Yeah, I'd say he's definitely filling that niche. That it's so hard to find good tracks.
I know it really
Uh,
is. And this guy, he plays. It's all real time. He has a drummer comes over and they play together. Thing about organ trios, he's playing bass and chords all at the same time. So the bass and the chords are always really in sync, and the tracks are grooving as hell. And they're very much like what you would hear on a record or at a live gig with a good organ trio or something. Um, there's a fairly good mix of tempo and style, mostly like everything in the real book, but he doesn't have charts with it, but if you reference the real book, then that's usually what he's referencing. And fast things, slow things, maybe sometimes three or four different tempos of the same song. Yeah, anyway, it's very good, and he's a good guy, and I want to make sure that he knows we appreciate him. Oh, there you go. Luke put it in the chat.
yeah. I think he's got a YouTube channel as well where I think he puts some up for
Yeah,
free on YouTube and rotates it. Sorry,
yeah, that's
said
what he
that.
does. Yeah, he puts maybe half a dozen tracks on YouTube, so you can hear what they sound like. And then he rotates new ones in and out. So he doesn't ever put the whole catalog up there. He wants people to come to his site and, spend a little bit of money. But very, very cool stuff. And I may even have him do some custom things. We might do a couple of collaborations where we're both on screen at the same time playing. And if I need something that, like, I want to do some kind of groove or whatever, or some tune, or at some tempo, at some groove, he told me he would be happy to make it for us. So he's a very good resource for us.
Yeah,
And I
definitely.
love organ trio, so I'm totally down with it.
Amazing. Right. I think that brings us to a close. No gigs or festivals that we need to mention?
Uh, let's see. I'm playing a few little things around town, but we're playing for those of you who are in the Northwest. Pearl Django will be playing 4 nights at Jazz Alley on January 7 through 10 or 8. No, sorry, 7 through 10 or 7 through 11. Did I say January? August. We're going to be in January too, but and Connie Edingson from the Midwest is coming out to sing with us. She made a record with us back a while ago, and Jazz Alley wanted us to be there on a weekend, and they thought it'd be fun to have a singer, so we brought her out. We will be bringing her out. So what it means is I got a whole bunch of stuff to learn, including like bebop heads that she scats and I'm supposed to play along with. And all sorts of complicated stuff, which makes me happy that I learned how to read music and have a good study habit, so I can learn quickly. Come and play in L.A. I might do that. I've been offered to play at a place in San Pedro, and if I can connect the dots, I'm maybe coming down there and using that as kind of an anchor, and then working my way back up north as I go. So. Who said that? Justin? Oh, you're in LA, Justin? Oh, maybe I'll just use your L5 then. All right. Thank you, Duncan. Okay. Thanks, everybody. I'll let you go. Go back to your families and
Do you want to give us a
play guitar.
little
Play
play
guitar and
out?
be happy.
You want a noodle for us while we say goodbye?
Oh, yeah. Here, let me turn the track back on. Oh.